Thanks for the presentation before. It was very inspiring. So my part, I'll be talking about mycelium-based composite. It's a little bit more experimental compared to the others. Here's the title, From Manufacturing to Cultivating. So the first thing is, what is mycelium? So mushroom, as we know it, is the fruiting body. Mycelium refers to the root system of the mushroom, the fungal system. So this is what it looks like under the microscope. So each strand is called hyphae. So where are they? So mycelium is everywhere in our natural world. They're under the ground. So the mushroom bodies only comes out when the temperatures and the condition, weather condition, is optimal, but they're always there, the mycelium. And of course, we as human, we cultivate them. It's very common in the mushroom farming industry. So the bags that you see here, they're the mycelium. So usually in the industry, mycelium was cultivated using organic waste such as sawdust. You can use any plant-based material, which makes it a very effective way to upcycle some of the fruit agricultural waste, such as food pulps from pressed juice, rice husk, coconut husk, etc. We've tested growing some of the mycelium using coffee ground as collected coffee grounds as well. So what happened is when mycelium, the network start colonizing the material provided, it will start digesting and releasing enzyme and penetrate into the plant cells and then start binding the material together, which makes it a natural composite, like a natural glue in a sense. And in the cell wall of mycelium, the hyphae is the single strand. So it contains a substance called chitin, which is the same substance that makes up the shells in insects. That's what gives it strength. So once it finishes colonizing, like I mentioned, it will start binding all these natural organic fibers together and makes this composite. So what can we do with them? That's what we do at university. We run a series of workshops and dive into the research and try to answer some of these questions. And of course, we have very heavily digitally focused these days in the design industry. So we've developed ways of developing bespoke mold that are reusable, that will allow us to cultivate the mycelium composite in the form that we like. We create the mold, and then we use it as a growing chamber to cultivate the mycelium. Once it's finished growing, we can simply release the mold and we'll gain the shape or objects, mycelium object that we want. So as you can see, we can make fairly complex things without too much of a waste at all. In fact, no waste. And we on purposely try to grow something that are quite bespoke to test the limit. And we can embed joint into it. We try to combine it with some of our design techniques, such as structural topological optimization, where with given low condition, unnecessary material will be taken away. Usually these forms are very hard to manufacture. But with this growing process, it becomes quite low energy and quite efficient. The growing rate usually with the right temperature and condition, the mycelium will finish growing in about a week. And as you can see, the accuracy is there. You can see the comparison between the 3D printed component and the grown component. So this proves that we can actually use it as a material that has fairly accurate and have the control over it. So is it strong? Subsequently, we did some material tests in our smart structures lab at Swinburne. The cylinder that you saw there took 1.3 ton to crush. It's no way as strong as concrete, but it's still pretty strong. It's roughly similar to hempcrete. And because it's very fibrous, when it fails very slowly. So although we can't really instantly substitute it with other building materials, structural materials, but there are applications that we can apply already, such as interior lining. We try out some acoustic panels, compare it to existing products in the market. And here are some of the designs with patent. You can easily make interior lining panels. And these are the potential, what we could do with, let's say, acoustic meeting pot that's grown with mycelium. We can bind it with timber. And in the following two examples, I'll show it's more real life application. So last year, no, 2 years, a year and a half ago, we were invited by the Royal Botanic Garden to trial a series of mycelium wetland. So we developed this mycelium pot that would house plant for water cleansing, and it acts as a floating wetland as an alternative material choice to the traditional plastic version. So you can see we manufactured 3, and we subsequently further tested its tensile strength, because these pots can only be grown in a certain size, and to create larger area, we need to bind them together. So tensile strength is quite important. Here are some of the final outcome. We also trial different finishing method. We try to chart this one with fire to see how it would react in the wild, uncontrolled environment. Here, all the mycelium pots in the lake at the Botanic Gardens. We left them there for about 6 months. And you can see the photo here. After 6 months, the plant grows quite significantly. And at the back, that's the existing wetland. And as you can see in the detailed pictures, other organic matters or wildlife starting to also colonize the wetland, and it started to disintegrate a little bit. So some people ask me about the durability. So I guess what I learned from this project is that perhaps organic design is supposed to be subject to death, because organic thing dies. As long as we choose material and design it in a way that when the material breaks down, it can be safely returned to soil. And because of this mycelium colonizing process, it's a natural process. It happens in the nature without us planning it anyway. So it's perfectly safe for the soil. And after 6 months, we put it out, put it back into our lab, and start drying it. What was very interesting was we thought we killed the growth already half a year ago, but because of the moisture content, it revived itself. So after leaving the pots outside for like 3 months, it starts sprouting again, giving us this beautiful mushroom. So nature is very resilient. So here's a section view of what the pot looks like in relation to the plant. And in the next project, it's a Christmas pop-up store for a brand called Seeds and Sprout, which is an eco houseware brand. They invited us to design their Christmas store featuring mycelium material for both decorative and functional object. And I think the project happened last year when Melbourne, we were in lockdown, our sixth lockdown. We had a 5K traveling restrictions. We lost access to any of those fancy manufacturing facilities we have at the university. But we turned the project around and start looking at, well, can we use this growing process as a way to upcycle some of the waste material in our life just around our block. So the task for the design team was to travel around within that 5K, walk around the block, collect some hard rubbish from the curbside and see what we can do with it. Because mycelium can digest and bind organic material. So as long as it's wood-based. Here are some of the outcome. That's a Christmas tree. I collected a series of toilet rolls from my house and stitch them into pipes, and that housed the mycelium growth, and all this waste paper roll becomes part of the final object. And we have a series of plinth for product display, which was grown using the most standard IKEA bookshelves. And after we finish the growth, I simply wipe it down and reuse the shelf again. Same logic was applied to some of these collected furniture from the street. We restitch them and use mycelium to bind the legs and create a sitting surface. We use other objects from inside our house, such as, again, IKEA lampshade. Took it off, use it as the mold to grow my mycelium light, and then safely return the mold to its original use without creating extra waste. Basket collected from the street, packaging bubbles, packaging cardboard, and the most mundane material that we use as a waste in our household, egg cartons. And you can see we were able to create this beautiful texture without the need of extensive CNC and material waste. So a lot of these opportunities are there. So the idea of this project is really to develop, to find the beauty inside those mundane objects within our life and try to turn the waste into, give it useful objects again and give it a second life. Here are some of the product outcome. So that pendant was grown with cooking pans. One of the team members' father's a cook, a chef. So she has a lot of these cooking pans at home. So here's all the objects inside that pop-up store that we designed. That's the Christmas tree grown with my toilet rolls. That's the plinth. And we on purposely let some of the objects to start sprouting. Just killed it before it about to release the spore. So no spore was released, so it's all safe. You can see the pattern was picked up from the egg carton. And it also creates its natural pattern itself. So here's a juxtaposition between the texture from our natural material and the man-made. So finally, one of the beautiful things of this project is because all the materials are organic, it's very suitable for temporary projects such as pop-up store. So whenever the objects are no longer being used, we can just safely return it to the soil. So I tested some of it. Sorry about the slightly disgusting pictures. That's my worm farm. I have a worm farm at home, which I used to throw all my organic waste. I used it to test the mycelium. As you can see, I threw some of the composite there. That picture was taken on the 26th of March, and you can see in a month's time, you can no longer see the original pieces. So hopefully that will give us another way of thinking about construction and making at least smaller scale projects instead of upcycling, recycling. Perhaps we can just design our structures in a way that is subject to death, and when they finish, return back to become a part of the nutrient for our natural system. All right. Thank you.
Chanhui, thank you very much. That's very exciting. The number of comments in the chat, I think, reflect you really resonated with our audience, and also the thought of, I guess it's horses for courses. If it is a temporary shop fit out, and I like the way you've identified a really good use case. So exciting to the combination of digital design, one of our most advanced human activities, with growing a material. It's just a lovely combination of human intelligence and nature. Thank you for that. Now, so many questions and not a great deal of time. Let's take 10 minutes to discuss, to talk, and to answer some questions. I mentioned it earlier that there have been quite a few questions around definitions. What is a regenerative material, and what's the difference between regenerative and sustainable materials? Can I ask our speakers to consider that, and maybe hopefully one of you raise a hand and start us off? How do you define a regenerative material?
Yeah, I'd be happy to start. I mean,
Thanks, Amanda.
yeah, the concept of regenerative is that you're creating positive outcomes. You're not just sustaining, what the current paradigm is, which we know is currently not working, but you're actually regenerating community and ecosystem positive benefits. So what's key, for example, I think with any bio-based material, we know that they've got a good start in the regenerative sort of category achievements, in that they're renewable if they're grown sustainably and in collaboration with community and social benefits. So those two things are key, that you're able to have positive ecosystem and community benefits. It also is able to be circular. So that's how I would define it. It's going to look different for different materials, and we just saw with mycelium, but it's going to look different when you're looking at sort of outgrowing bricks out of algae, or all kinds of other technologies that are emerging.
Thanks, Amanda. Does any of our other speakers want to build on that, or have a different perspective from their particular material interest?
Hi, Hudson. I might just add to that. It's Tina here. Yes, I absolutely agree with Amanda. It's one of those confusing terms, but for me, in the same way, it's about going further than reducing the negative impact of what you're doing. So it's about going beyond that kind of neutral. Mm-hmm. It's about then giving back to the environment or the climate with what you're doing. I mean, I think an easy example for me, I always think of a green roof. So sure, a green roof, keeps the water off your building and etc. But then it actually helps to start to build the biodiversity around your site. So you're giving back.
So no longer doing just less harm, but actually doing good.
Quite, yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. And so distinguishing between that and a sustainable material, is that the difference, that it's going beyond just neutral into positivity?
Great. Yes. I think for me, that would be the definition. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Coming back to Sonia from Department of Education, I know you're also exploring future materials. How do you see, with such an urgency of building schools now that are safe and fit for purpose now, but also keeping a lens on future materials, how are you balancing those two dimensions of the department's role?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Hudson, and something we've been working through exactly how we do that. We're kind of fortunate that we have a wide variety of different construction activities happening at any one point in time. I mentioned up to about 100 major capital works projects, but we're always doing upgrades and renovations on a wide variety of our school assets. So I guess what we're hoping is we might be able to find an avenue to be able to test or utilize some of those activities to be able to look at the materials and how they're operating, and then basically based on those analysis come up with the economic justification as to why we would sort of expand or continue to invest. So I think for us it's about finding the right opportunity at the right point in time with the right material to be able to test, and then go from there and build and better understand those broader economic benefits for the investment in those sorts of solutions.
Fantastic. I'd love to think there are conversations that follow on from this with advocates for regenerative materials saying we need to inform government. And MECLA has always said the role of government procurement as a driver for change in the uptake of other materials. So that's very encouraging to hear. Jennifer Snyder's House of Bamboo, there's quite a bit in the chat about invasive species. Is bamboo the right thing in Australia? We grow a lot of rice that needs a lot of water in Australia. You say tackling misinformation is one of the big tasks, and that there are in fact 5 native bamboos to Australia. Could you talk to that a little?
All right. Generally, there's 5 native bamboos to Australia. They're predominantly in WA and Northern Territory is their origin. We've introduced over 200 bamboos that work and live very happily in our tropical and subtropical climate. There are 2 types of bamboo. There's a running bamboo, which everyone doesn't want to plant in their backyard because it ends up in the neighbours and everybody hates you. And that is, for instance, China uses the running bamboo moso, and that is, plentiful supply. But there is also a clumping bamboo varieties, which basically their root system only grows 1/3 around whatever the height is, and it limits itself within that. South America use a lot of bamboo in construction that's all clumping bamboo. So you can quite easily control the spread of bamboo by planting clumping bamboo, and those projects that you saw around the mining areas in Australia, that's all we use is the clumping bamboo. So you can actually quite effectively restore the land, provide an ecosystem, provide material, and integrate that within native bushland and stuff within Australia. So they can work in unison and it isn't invasive. So, there's a little bit of a misinformation around that.
Terrific, thank you. I have to say it's not a question or observation. The imagery you gave of the bamboo structures and buildings were just beautiful. I'd love to see more of that. I've got some homework.
I've got lots of them. I was limited. There's
sure
amazing work going on around the world. Holland does amazing work, but there's, China's really been doing a lot of work around the recognition of bamboo and its use, and lots of engineering. There's a lot of engineering information around on the suitability of laminated bamboo for structures. And there's a lot of innovation and design going on now using bamboo around the world. The Philippines are working on social housing, and there's a lot of work around that and using it with reinforced steel as a alternate to steel in the concrete. So there's lots and lots of information now, and lots of innovation, and lots of and it's sort of exponentially growing.
Fantastic. Look, thank you for raising the awareness in this session, and I imagine word of mouth from the 117 people still who are listening will help spread that. Chanhui, can I come back to you with your Swinburne University hat on? You mentioned acoustic properties of the mycelium products. What about thermal properties from an insulation point of view? Have you looked at that?
Oh, I think we haven't, but I think we are getting some device that will allow us to test some of those properties soon. But naturally, because the material is very foam-like, it does have really good insulation and acoustic properties, I believe.
Yeah.
Acoustic properties was tested. We'll get some result on the thermal quite soon.
Okay.
And surprisingly, the material is not very, it doesn't catch on fire easily.
Okay.
That's what happened when we were charting that wetland. It just created this charted skin, but doesn't really burn.
Okay, that's good to know. What do you see as the, have any of your students or colleagues or yourself kind of just thrown an idea out there and thought, that's the pop-up shop, I think, is something tangible that all of us can imagine, but anything way out on the third horizon that you can tell us?
If anyone has a project to collaborate, can reach out. So for the pop-up store, that was a real client. They were very trusting, I have to say.
Answer that. Yeah.
And yeah, it really proves that it is possible. So like I said, we're not at a stage where we can just say let's replace concrete and replace any of these structural members with mycelium bricks, but it's really we can start doing a lot of the interior work already. And also another area where we could really improve and find opportunities. So far, we've been growing mycelium as I'm trained as an architect and I teach in architecture school. So we're growing it as an architect, as a designer, which to me doesn't really make sense, because although the growing requires little energy, but if you want it to grow fast, you do need a temperature control, which again is electricities and facilities. But what I find interesting is we have a lot of mushroom farming already, and they have trouble getting rid of their mycelium because they only want the fruit. They're selling the fruit for people to eat, and then they have to throw away the root. So I guess one of the things on the horizon is I would like to work with those farmers and see if there's a way to really connect the dots and create this circular model where we get what we need as designers using the waste that's already being generated every week and people having trouble to deal with.
I can see a circular economy model of a data warehouse with all of its excess heat going into the greenhouse, and then the mycelium waste from the greenhouse going into your manufacturing. Exactly. That's a terrific circular idea to finish on. I'm so disappointed that time is not our friend on this. The conversation, the dialogue, and the chat has really shown an amazingly stimulating discussion. Thank you very much to our speakers. I'm sad that we have to close now, but thank you to Sonia Auld, to Tina Fox and Isabella Peppard-Clark, to Amanda Sturgeon, Jennifer Snyders, and Chanhui Chen. I think if we're in an auditorium, we'd be clapping. Really want to say our thanks to you all. The chat we will keep with the recording of the session so that others can tap into the links to the discussion, to the ideas and your contacts. So thank you. Really exciting discussion to end our MECLA year on. I really want to thank Monica Richter from WWF, whose vision and determination is absolutely instrumental to success. I think radical collaboration just runs through her blood. So thank you, Monica, for all of your work. Thank you also to Kati Verheyen and Alexi Barnstone from Climate Kick Australia, one of MECLA's partners. Their insights, their commitments, and their organisational skills make events like today a success. As ever, to our audience and our members, thank you. And please keep an eye on the LinkedIn, the MECLA LinkedIn page and posts. We're forever sending updates, relevant industry happenings, and so on. Visit our website to access the ever-growing body of knowledge and resources, the Dictionary of Carbon, the case studies, information brochures and recordings, and don't forget the discussion paper, and to please complete the survey around measurement of embodied carbon by the 15th of the month. For now, thank you, and may I wish you a very happy Christmas, a regenerative Christmas, a time to relax and recharge, and a happy summer break. See you in 2023 for another year of doing. Thanks, everybody.